Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. This is GenchoMoto and in today's video we're going to show you another review. With all that being said, let's start. That was a close one. Marek, why did you not stop on time? God. Anyway, now when we're back on track, I'm going to show you this badass baby. This is an American Chrysler 300C, but interesting fact about it, this is just the body. Underneath, this particular model is Mercedes E-Class W211. Yes, that is correct, you heard me right. Suspension, engine, and even most of the components inside the car, they're Mercedes ones. But very, very nice American style body. Super long, super wide, looks super badass. So if you want to be a kidnapper, dentist, gangster, badass lookalike, Snoop Dogg, G-Dog and all the other dogs, this is literally the car for you. It starts its production in 2005, it ends in 2010. It comes with very few engines, but we're going to talk about them in a little while. So let's go have a look quickly around the car, make sure and show you how nice it is. I'm going to tell you the pros and the cons about it, which are in both directions a lot. So we're going to start with the body. It's got a massive, super long body, short windows just like a tank, super cool lookalike. It's very flat on the top and very wide, massive big doors like a truck. It's locked, I'm not going to show you that just yet. Then they usually come with trims on the side so the doors don't look as big. Most people remove them, some remove them in a very bad way so they leave marks all over. On the back we have a really short boot. Inside is massive, big tail lights, big Chrysler badge. And fun fact about them is they call them the poor man's Bentley or the poor man's Rolls Royce, whatever you want to call them, because most of people that don't know about cars, they confuse them for Bentleys and they think that you're super rich, hence why it comes with the poor man's Bentley. We got a big tow bar, parking sensors. They're mandatory for this car. I would suggest front and back. If you don't have the front ones, install them. Usually they come with the rear ones anyway. Big chunky wheels and tires. 225 by 60/18. They're super expensive. That is one of the cons of the car. When you get two tires, even second-hand ones are super dear. So bear that in mind if you're buying one of them. Alloys, as you can see, they look horrible. Unfortunately, the standard alloys, especially in the UK, they become like this after a while, so they either need a refurb or you can just change them. These cars can take up to 22-inch wheels, so it looks even more gangster, but then the comfort when you're driving the car changes completely. Another thing, buying wheels for this car is super expensive because they're 5x115, which means they're quite rare and you would usually have to buy them brand new unless you're super lucky and you've got like 600-700 quid to spare for sort of a good-ish set of wheels. Although you have to start thinking about tires as well. They come with TPMS sensor, so you will either have to disable that or reinstall it into the new ones, which again is a bit more costly. The issues with the car and the body of the car is that it's where it's so big, and we usually in UK we have super tiny parking spaces. You're gonna get scratches all over the car. 9 out of 10 when you buy it, it's not gonna look as good a year later. This one was in a perfect condition when I first got it, with few marks here and there. After a while, unfortunately, I got hit on the side on the car park. This only happened recently, so that's why it's a different black color. On the car wash, it was missing the fog light because I forgot to put it on. This is literally a temporary fix until we get it into the paint shop. But I mean, that is just a proof. Here it was all scratched, here where it was actually broken. That got fixed for now. Then on this side, as you can see, more scratches scratches on the bumper, on the rear bumper. Again, more scratches. We're gonna put that into detail so you just can see how frustrating and annoying it is. And this is mainly where the car's so big and it stands out on the car park. Usually when people are reversing from the car park, they tend to scratch the front and the rear bumper. That's the two areas that get affected the most when you're driving one of these. Apart from that, super badass front end lookalike. Massive grille. It looks like a bloody train in the front. To be fair, this grille is not the stock one. That is sort of a Bentley style-ish. A lot of people are also putting Bentley badges on top. This is sad. Don't do it. Definitely don't do it. Headlights, big and perfect. Nighttime is really pleasure to drive. Massive front bonnet. I mean, in the car comes stock full of chrome. If you get it de-chromed and it's like a dark color, perfect. Looks absolutely brilliant. And that's pretty much it for the body. Cons are, as we mentioned already, tires. They're expensive and you're going to have to repaint bumpers more than once in your ownership, depending on how long you had it. If you go and have a look at one, then that's something that you definitely want to check. For front and rear bumper repairs, that's not gonna mean necessarily that the car's been smashed. That can be just literally simple parking. Although I also need to mention, some people are very fussy, so they, for such a small scratch like this one, they decide to claim from the insurance and the car might turn out to be category. So HPI check is again another mandatory thing that you have to look for. Going around the car, that's pretty much it. Looks super nice, looks super gangster, as I've mentioned it. 9 out of 10 when you're buying one of these examples. Unless you're buying it from dealership, you're gonna find out that the people that drive in this car are all people that sort of want to look rich, or they're massive fans of the Chrysler brand itself, or youngsters like me that want to be drug dealer lookalike. I don't want to be drug dealer lookalike, just to mention that. I bought it cheap, hence why I got it. I wanted to own one of these. It was super cheap. It was a very good deal for me to get, so I decided I'm gonna go for it, drive it for a year, and then get rid of it after my pleasure's done. And that's about it. Engine wise, the car comes with many options for pretty much everyone's pocket. We start with diesel engine, which is only one, and that's a Mercedes V6 3-liter engine. They call it the CRD in here. In the W211 is CDI. It comes with 214 brake horsepower, nice torque. It's economical for what this is, because this is a super heavy car. I'm going to use super quite a lot in this video, but in total it's very economical, sort of reliable. What you want to look for is injectors and turbo. That's mainly their issues. With the diesel ones, I'll open quickly. Wait. They've got issues mainly with the injectors and turbo, so leave that cover and inspect for oil leaks. What you're usually gonna find is the turbo actuator is failing a lot as well. This is quite inexpensive issue. If it's only a turbo actuator, you're looking about roughly £100 to get it fixed. Another little issue, as soon as you open it, is them studs here. They tend to break and they tend to fail. They're not expensive, about again £20 on eBay. You can find them brand new, so no massive issue, but then look for that as well. If they're failing, you can just slap them into that little gap here, and then obviously that's your bonnet shut. Petrol engines one, we're gonna start with the smallest one, which is 2.7, 183 horsepower V6. I wouldn't recommend that because it's a moody engine. Fuel consumption is as much as the 3.5 and they tend to break a lot. Then the next one is 3.5, 253 horsepower, sort of reliable. You do need to service it on time, because if you don't do a proper noise and clean service, then that may lead to engine failures. Then we go to the big boys, which is a 5.7 V8, 340 horsepower and 6.1 V6 SRT8, which is the 425 horsepower, and that's a car which is under 5 seconds. Super fast, super juicy. This one is completely out of the league of this. Literally apart the body, everything else is completely different. Them petrol engines are all American ones, so down there apart suspension, everything else is American. If you're looking at SRT, this is way above the price range of one of these, like the 3.5 and the 3-liter diesel. Between the 3.5 petrol and the 3-liter diesel, I would definitely recommend the 3-liter diesel. With the decent remap, it gets as much horsepower as the 3.5 and it's a lot more economical. Again, it drives a lot more nicer. Although with the 3.5 you can slap an LPG system in the boot. There's plenty of space, so you can grab one of these, install it, and then you're gonna be basically driving quite economical and cheap as well. Anyway, going to the suspension, big massive brake discs, big massive brake pads. They're quite expensive when it comes to them, It is costing around 170, 180 quid for front discs for a decent set. Suspension, super cheap. The whole suspension of eBay, the front one, you can get it for about, roughly on top of my head, it's about £200. For them £200, you can change your whole suspension, you won't have a single knock, which leads me to the next con of the car. The next con of the car is the suspension is quite weak. As you might know, if you had a W211 Mercedes, front suspension is quite weak, it starts to knock, you need to replace it. Super easy job to do. Again, if you have the right tools, it takes no more than 2 hours to get it done. As it comes to the rear of the car, when you're servicing the brake disc, you also have to service the brake shoes as well, which are responsible for the handbrake of the car. Apart from that, not much else to be said on this. Transmission, they only come in automatic. One of them is the American one, which is a 4-speed automatic, quite reliable. It is smooth, but then you've got the 5-speed Mercedes one, which I would definitely recommend. It's very rare you're gonna find a 4-speed automatic in these ones, especially in UK, but if you do, don't worry about it. The 5-speed one, as everybody knows, they're super reliable. They change gears super nice. But with them 300Cs, they've got a little plastic pin which is in a pink color that tends to break, and then you cannot get the car into gear. Very inexpensive, about 15-16 quid for a new one. You can change it in a matter of 30 minutes and then you're back on the road. With all that being said, we're going to move in the front of the car so I can explain something else. So we've got the, it's not this key, okay, another key. Another con of the car is the key. Sometimes you turn it, gets into ignition, you attempt to start it, it doesn't start. Obviously mine was starting, but if you're turning it and you have no crank, usually there is a model right inside, just behind that barrel here, that tends to fail. It's around 80 quid brand new. You replace that and you sort your issue with starting. That's pretty much about it. Let's get inside. I'll show you a little bit. I'll tell you about more cons. We're gonna go to the boot and we're gonna go from there probably for a nice drive. Inside of the car, it is absolutely brilliant. As soon as you sit, little windows, and then super spacious. I know I'm short, but for me it's super spacious, and to be fair, for tall people it's also super spacious. Big wheel, like you're driving a lorry. Then the dashboard is so wide that I can stretch my hand and I still won't be able to reach the window. For that, which reminds me, you're gonna need a very decent and long phone holder if you're traveling a lot. Then you have a massive bonnet in front of you. Literally the whole feeling as soon as you sit inside of the car is amazing. Although it is a bit old, I have to say. For example, we've got here a climate control, but it's not digital, it's literally by hand, where with the E-Class it's all digital. It looks a lot more neater, a lot more nicer. Then we have the multimedia, which usually comes in as an extra of the car, and what you're gonna find out, they're a bit crappy, so they either won't work or they will be very so they will either won't work or they will play a little bit. Also, if your car is draining your battery, most likely is your media. Simple temporary fix is to go at the back and remove the fuse. That will cure your issue for now. Then you will have to replace the media with aftermarket one, because a genuine one that's working costs a fortune, so I wouldn't bother. I usually don't listen to music in my car, so I've never minded. I've got issues with the sat nav anyway, I just have to mention that. Then you've got chrome little bits in here on the vents, they usually come off. Again, not a massive issue. And the lights, so it's not enough darkness outside to tell you, but usually the lights are going off with time and it doesn't light up in green anymore. Some of them even go off in total. We've got heated seats, some of them vented, some of them have button here on the side so you can move your pedals a little bit to the front, which is super good for short people. 2 cup holders, a little pocket here, massive compartment over here. I mean, if I start taking stuff off, and I can fit probably even more. Little glove box with mouthwash inside to have. Automatic mirror. On the side you've got the buttons as any other car. You've got memory seats which are sitting on the door. On the E-Class you usually have all your extras for the seats over here. On the Chrysler is here, and literally on the bottom you have 2 buttons, very little, where you can control everything else. Climate control, you control it from here as well. You turn it. The seats are so big and so comfy that I've done loads and loads of miles in this car and I've never felt tired. In one day we went to Milton Keynes, then Manchester, back to Milton Keynes. From Milton Keynes we went to London, and then from London to Ashford. Barely felt it, and the car did really well as economical wise. The music, if it works, it's brutal. Got Boston speakers all around, it's a premium audio, and you've got 3 speakers only in the front of the dashboard. You've got another 2 on the doors, another 2 on the rear doors, and you've got another 3 with a subwoofer right on the back. Super good quality. I would say it's probably better than the E-Class. On the side here we have the controller for the wipers, for the headlights, exactly the same as the E-Class. Cruise control exactly the same as the E-Class and the C-Class. If that ever gets broken, you can look for one from an E-Class if you can't find the one from the Chrysler. Not a massive biggie. And with all that being said, I'm going to move to the back, show you how it feels at the back, because already you saw on the front, and we're gonna go from there. On the back, again, super spacious, very comfy. 3 people can sit easily without any issue, even for a long drive. You've got 1 pocket onto the passenger seat and none on the driver's seat. Again, don't use it, this one is a bit saggy already. 2 big pockets in the door. On the side of the door you only have the controller for your windows, and that's about it. Airbags on the side, quite simple to be fair, cheaply made, nothing special. But on the end of the day, you're buying this car to drive it, not to sit on the back of it. Then a very simple armrest. I forgot to lock it in. Okay, a very simple armrest with 2 cup holders. That is so squidgy and cheaply made. Anyway, not much to say about it. The good thing I have to mention is the little handles here. If you pull them, your seats are gonna fall off, which is very good. On the E-Class, there's only a few variants that can do that. Coming out on that little corner of the car, you rarely find, but they do it, is handles on the back are sort of cheaply plastic made, so they tend to break. They're not expensive, about £25 second hand for one. It takes about roughly an hour because you've got quite a lot of stuff to remove before you get to it, so they break. You can still use it, but it's just flopping around. I've already got one in the boot, spare that I have to replace, but the problem is it's too cold outside for now and I kind of don't want to deal with anything. We don't have a boot handle unfortunately, but we've got a button which you have to press twice to open it. Floppers, stuff, go-kart equipment. Oh, as you can see, it's a massive boot. Throw that at the back. Quite a big boot, quite comfy for kidnapping people, as you've seen in one of our series. Big battery, as big as a lorry. That's expensive if your battery goes. They start from over 200 quid. You can get the crap ones from eBay for about £100. I wouldn't recommend, they're not that great. Space saver wheel, you cannot put a normal one, but if you're driving a petrol one, you can put your LPG inside, that's a good idea. You've got your fuse box, and we've got a little handle. Them starts again, not very great. An easy way to check if they're working well is when you click it, as soon as you do this, it should open itself. If it doesn't, then as you can see, not very great, hence why I bought it cheap, of course. And then you just drop it from here and it shuts. There's airplane. It might sound like the car has cloth, you piece of. It may sound like I'm saying a lot of negativity about this car, but trust me, if you want to own one, my advice is just go and get yourself one. They're very cheap. I'm going to talk about the price in a little while, but in general, this car brings a lot of joy, especially if you're a car guy, you love cars, you're into American cars. This is a great first American car that you can start with, see how it feels. The cons, as I said, there are a lot, but then most of them are inexpensive, and most likely you're not gonna find one with all them cons that you're gonna have to sort out with time. You might get yourself a decent example if you decide to pay a little bit more, but in general, it's a great car. It's reliable as transmission wise, and engine wise. Suspension is cheap, very easy to be replaced. With all that being said, let's go for a drive. We're going to speak about the price, and I'm going to basically show you how the car drives, because I've been driving it for about a year, so I know it inside out. When we drive in, you can probably hear from the camera like squishy noise, like noise. That is from the lower suspension arm. The bushes at the minute are worn, particularly on this car, so I do need to replace them. And with time, the car is basically old, so it is normal to have some issues here and there. And one of them is the plastic trims. So the whole dashboard in general is solid, cheaply made, but solid, if you know what I mean. So if we stop right over here, so we're sitting on a traffic light now, for example. Oh, it's not doing it. But sometimes you get that vibrating sound, usually comes from that very last trim on the dashboard, which is like miles away from me. Vision is very good, although it's like small windows, it is very good, and depending on how you set up your seat, it can literally feel like you're driving some sort of a 4x4, which actually reminds me, they come with rear wheel drive and all-wheel drive, but for the all-wheel drive, you put your hands on, so you can put your hands on one of these. You need to get anything above the 5.7, 3 liter, 3.5 and 2.7. They don't come in all-wheel drive. The 3 liter diesel, it's literally, as soon as you smash it and you put your foot to the floor, so kick down, as soon as you kick down it flies. The 3 liter diesel drives super nice, has plenty of torque. I've got my one remapped at 280 horsepower, and trust me, it is super fast. Yes, it is a lot more juicier than it was meant to be on the stage 1 on 240 horsepower, but then I don't really care about fuel economy. It's literally no problem for me. Emissions, again, they're not too bad either. So we're stepping in, you're doing like 60, 70 and above in no time. Super fast for what it is. Obviously it's not a race car or some luxurious Maserati, Audi R8 or anything else, but it's a luxurious class limo, sort of limo. They also have a long wheelbase and they come as touring as well. The touring has got plenty of space, perfect for people with families, and I've seen some on very high miles. Like there was one for sale about half a year ago on 530k on clock. It was again 3 liter diesel. So this only proves how good and reliable this car is. But the little cons that I've mentioned, you will spend very little money to maintain this car. The engine sounds amazing, got that really nice whistle and like a quite nice roar as well. And if you change your exhaust system, even on the diesel one, it sounds brutal, like super nice. You can go on YouTube and put like, just write down straight pipe CRD or anything like it, some sort of similarity, and you can hear them. They sound very nice. I haven't got around to this. Unfortunately, I decided to sell this car because I've got a Megane 225 now, which I'm going to be using as a daily. We thought about it with the missus, and there's no point for me really to keep it only as a Saturday, Sunday drive. It's literally no point at all. The car's not getting driven and I'm only paying insurance, so we decided that we're going to sell this one and keep the 225. Steering wheel, super light, and where it's so big, it's very easy to control it. Put your two hands. It has a lot of body roll because it's a very heavy car, and on the stock suspension it moves, but then the comfort that it drives with, it's super good. Literally drives like a boat, super good. It's not a race car. If you want to feel the power of it, kick it on the straights. I wouldn't suggest sharp turns in corners. Obviously if you get the SRT or the 5.7, the suspension there is different, a lot more stiffer. Experience of driving it's a lot more different. The 2.7, the 3 liter diesel and the 3.5 petrol, they're for cars that you want to go on like long journeys, comfortable drive, like chill with the family or with friends somewhere nice, or town drive. For the diesel, again, for town drive, you do need to take them on the motorway every now and then just so you can clear off the DPF. They don't really have major issues with the DPF anyway, but in general, super easy and relaxed drive. It gave me pleasure to drive it from the moment I purchased it, and to be fair, even now, a year, maybe a year and a half later, every time I drive it, I kind of sort of debate whether to sell it or not. It just gives me that joy. I do have to spend like 300 quid, around 300 quid to fully fix it. But seeing the bodywork nowadays, every time I get to start the car, it kind of gets me a bit angry of how people don't pay attention to other people's cars. Literally, I picked it up with almost next to perfect bodywork, and now it's horrible. It literally just horrible. That was one of the reasons I wanted to get rid of this car anyway. Apart from that, you won't regret it. This one is only on 100k on clock. Yes, it does have a little rip in the seat, so that is again a very easy repair and it's inexpensive. Or you can just get a second-hand seat for about £100. They do go, if you open marketplace, you can find some on 150k, 200k. That is literally nothing for Mercedes engine, and they still hold value. The cheapest one we found yesterday was around £1,800, and this was with no extras. and around 170k on clock, so that's pretty much their bare minimum where you can get them for. About 1700-1800 pounds on standard alloys with not many extras, don't expect much, and then they can go all the way to 10-15k for the SRT. If you're looking for something that's like a 3-litre diesel or the 3.5 petrol, I'll personally go for a 3-litre diesel. Plenty of them in eBay, Marketplace, Auto Trader, wherever you name it, where you can look for cars, and you'll find them there. I would say roughly anything between 2,000 pounds and 4,000 pounds. For 4,000 pounds you can get a super nice and decent example with 2 keys and service history, probably only even with 1 owner. Them cars, they don't tend to have many owners unless it's a pimped one, because trust me, when you open a platform that you're gonna look for a 300C, you're gonna see plenty of them which are pimped up, like raced out, big alloys, big bumpers. There was one red one the other day, show car, it looks super cool. They wanted 5 grand for it, but it's not something that I would personally drive. I'll probably go for something normal, driven by an old man. You can very hardly break these ones, but then you do want a clean example. Slap big alloys and it's pretty much perfect. It doesn't need tinting windows, it doesn't need tinting headlights or tail lights, it literally needs none of that. It doesn't need big bumpers. The bumpers that are on the car, the original ones, they're big enough already, so just the bigger wheels and bigger tires and it's good. Bear in mind, if you're buying this for your wife, it might be a bit harder to drive it around town. It is a big limo. The amount of times you're going to be struggling to find a parking space for it where it's not going to get scratched, or going into like tight little streets, it's going to be a lot. So that is one castle that's killing up the joy of driving this beautiful car. But apart from that, I would definitely recommend this vehicle. It looks nice, it is reliable as long as it's maintained on time. Yes, it has cons, and yet they sound like a lot, but again, this is something that I'm telling you so you can bear in mind when you're looking at one, to sort of calculate how much you're going to have to spend if there's many cons. To be fair, if there is that many cons that I've just mentioned, you should probably stay away from the car. But if it has like 1 or 2, most of them are very cheap and easy. And again, the car is so big, everything's super easy to work on if you're mechanical minded. Yeah, with all of that, I'm gonna wrap it up very quickly. Good and decent car. They go anything between 2,000 and 4,000 pounds. For a decent example, the 2,000 ones, I would sort of look closely because they might be a bit dodgy. Insurance for them is quite cheap. Road tax is about £28 a month. Insurance, again, depending on your experience, no claim bonus and is extra. I personally pay £36 a month, which is nothing for a 3-litre diesel luxurious-ish car. It's not very luxurious for nowadays. In 2006, it looked brutal. Unfortunately, it's winter time and it gets dark super quick. We do work full-time jobs and we only had about an hour and a half to record this video. With all that being said, as an apology, if you like the video, hit the like button, put a comment below, share and subscribe, because that's how you help us grow. Now it's time for me to kick out Mark from the car because I want to have a hot shower. And this is a story for a Chrysler 300C.